Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. This is the Eccentric Mind podcast with your host, George Hernandez. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Today, we got an interesting episode. I've been fascinated with the human brain, and I've been recently doing these things that allow my brain to be in a much better position so that way I take more initiative, I'm more focused, I have more attention. And I've noticed a lot of differences in my performance and my productivity, and I really want to share this sort of protocol that I've built and how I've been managing to improve my performance as an individual, how I'm able to take care of my mental health, how I'm able to pretty much focus on the things that need to be focused on and make my goals come to fruition, pretty much make shit happen. I don't know, it's been an interesting sort of time frame recently, and I think just this whole protocol that I've been involved in has changed the trajectory of my mood, my days, but also my productivity and my work. So I really want to share this idea. So I call it "Don't Let the Baby Drive the Cybertruck: Why Your Morning Brain State Matters." So I'm not only going to be talking about the protocol, but I'm also going into the neurochemistry and what's actually going on with your brain whenever you partake in certain activities and whenever you don't partake in certain activities. We're going to be talking about two parts of the brain, which is the amygdala and your prefrontal cortex, and why that matters. So let's get into it. Your first hour of the morning determines the rest of your day and why your actions as soon as you wake up are hindering you more than they are reinforcing you. Your morning is the most valuable part of the day, especially the first hour. But most people unknowingly sabotage it the second they wake up. They let the emotional, reactive part of their brain, the amygdala, take the wheel instead of the calm, rational CEO brain. It's like letting a baby drive a Cybertruck fresh out of its nap. That's what most of us are doing. And I want to share a little bit of the average morning. So your average morning, if people are listening to this, maybe it falls under these particular circumstances or these activities. So the average morning consists of scrolling through social media, checking work emails, watching the news, or coffee. And this is the new normal. But normal doesn't mean it's good for you. And I want to break down exactly why screens first thing in the morning hijack your brain, what's really happening inside of your body, and what you can do instead to actually feel calm, focused, and in control of your day to be your most productive self. So let's get into it. So we're going to talk about screen usage first thing in the morning. This is a big hindrance to 90%, or excuse me, 80% of people in America. 9 out of 10 people scroll through their phones first thing in the morning, and that accounts to 80.6% of people check their phone within the first 10 minutes of them rising throughout the day. And that's nuts. So I am going to go into detail about what each action of scrolling first thing in the morning does to your brain and your body. But first, we're going to start with the story. So Dave wakes up, hits snooze 2 or 3 times, and finally rolls over to shut off his alarm. But before he even sits up, he's on Instagram checking likes and comments on his post from the last night. He drags himself to the bathroom, phone still in hand, scrolls while he sits on the phone, on the toilet for 9 minutes. Then he brushes his teeth, but not without propping his phone up to finish a YouTube video. Instead of starting the day, Dave goes back to sit on his bed just to watch the rest of the clip. Finally, he heads to the kitchen, makes himself a glass of coffee, skips breakfast, and rushes to get dressed. By the time he's at the door, his body hasn't had water, his mind's already been hijacked, and his attention has been given away to strangers online before he's given any to himself. Don't be Dave. The takeaway from this is, in the modern world, we choose to audition our attention onto others rather than ourselves first thing in the morning. We seem to be focused more on the past in that sense. If you really think about it, you're trying to catch up on what happened yesterday rather than putting in your initial effort or input into what's actually going to happen today. And by you focusing more on the past, on what happened yesterday, on what notifications, on what text, on what emails, you're not able to put in enough effort into what's actually going to happen today. You're still 8 hours back. You care more about what's happening out there rather than what's happening in here. And that's the key issue. Now, before I give you the whole science of what's happening to Dave's brain, let's talk about the two parts in your brain that are responsible to a scattered morning or a peaceful morning. One, so we're going to get into letter B, the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala. So this is what I was talking about a little bit beforehand in the beginning. So the insight. If you think about it, the prefrontal cortex is the CEO of your brain. Now, one thing about the CEO of your brain is that naturally it has to boot up. And this can take anywhere between 30 minutes to 45 minutes up to an hour. The prefrontal cortex is responsible of the analytical side of your brain, the part of your brain that makes schedules and sets up plans and takes action, but is also very much in control of your attention and your effort. So when we're in this state of mind, whenever we're in the state of thinking, we're much more rational, we're much more logical, and we make better long-term decisions in the present now, okay? That's all you need to pretty much know about the prefrontal cortex. This is what we want to be in charge of the day, but it has to boot up. So think of a computer, for example. A computer, once you turn it on first thing in the morning, it has to load up, it has to put up all the software, it has to open up the apps that you originally had the night prior. It has to boot itself up so that way you can use it to its most efficient way. Now, for the amygdala is also very interesting. The amygdala, in no sense, I'm not trying to say that the amygdala is bad. It's actually very protective, and it's what necessarily keeps you safe, okay? However, we have this thing where the amygdala, as soon as you wake up, it's always on, okay? So think of the amygdala as the hall monitor or the security of your brain. Its job is to scan for potential threats. So pretty much first thing in the morning, its pretty much main designation is to keep you safe. And its job is to scan for potential threats and serves to protect you, making you more reactive compared to proactive, right? So what's going to happen is you pretty much, okay, actually, I'm going to get into that right after. I'm just kind of giving you what these two are because I'm already getting ahead of myself. So the amygdala is always running and scanning, but when you wake up, the prefrontal cortex needs time to boot itself up. But we're allowing ourselves to be more reactive rather than proactive. Think of the prefrontal cortex as proactivity and the amygdala as reactivity, okay? When we're in a reactive state, we tend to react in ways that is much more emotional, and that's what the amygdala serves us for. It's not a bad thing, but it's just not what we want to be as soon as we woke up from 8 hours of rest, okay? So the takeaway, the prefrontal cortex is the CEO of the brain, and the amygdala is like the alarm system. You don't let the security officer into the big boy chair because its behaviors aren't serving you first thing in the morning when the day is calm, you're at home, and you just woke up. Back to Dave. Dave wakes up, hits snooze 2 or 3 times, and finally rolls over to shut off his alarm, right? Okay. Now, we're pretty much going to break down every behavior Dave had and how we're breaking down the neurology on what's going on in his brain for each action, but then we're going to go into detail on why it's negatively affecting him, okay? So follow with me here. So step 1, Dave wakes up. Right? So this is pretty interesting. This is something I've been learning too, is that cortisol, which is the stress chemical inside of your body, is naturally, or your brain, forgive me if I'm wrong, is naturally going up the moment you wake up. It's actually your internal alarm, for lack of a better term. It's your internal alarm. It's actually what wakes you up physically without some form of an alarm, because every single day, even without an alarm, you do have a wake up time. And that's because cortisol is rising throughout your day. That's also why most people, or most individuals, when you wake up, you feel a little bit more tired and groggy. That's because cortisol is rising in your body. So you have an upcharge of cortisol that spikes first thing in the morning. That way you can wake up without an alarm. But this is a good and normal thing, right? So 2, Dave checks his phone laying down and scrolls. Now, this is the most important part here. This small fragment of a second will bias your choices for the rest of your day. It's going to determine what he eats, what he prefers to eat, what he scrolls through, how he reacts, and how he responds it, because of this moment right here when he scrolls through his phone. Now, how do I want to go about it? So we can go the cortisol spike, right? First thing in the morning, your cortisol is already naturally spiking up first thing in the morning, which is what causes you to wake up. So think of this way, that you are already in a pool of cortisol. You're already within that. Now, if you scroll first thing in the morning and you see an 18-year-old making $100,000 in a month, and you're kind of comparing yourself to him, like, damn, he's so young and I'm at this age, why don't I have that? Or you see something Donald Trump said and you're thinking, oh, what the fuck, why, what is this world? Or you see something that your boss sent over to you and now you're creating these internal monologues that it could be something that's bad for you rather than something that's good for you, right? This negative spiral just shoots up your cortisol even more. But so not only that, you see negative news, but you compare yourself, you see something online that causes you to be more reactive. It's causing the amygdala to come into place. But at the same time, now, even though you just woke up from rest, you're now much more discouraged and much more irritable throughout your day, right? So this is what causes the amygdala to show up. So now your amygdala is scanning for threats, even though there's nothing going on, because you're in literally the most peaceful hour of the day, which is the morning, right? The sun's coming up, there's birds flying, there's birds chirping and singing. It's beautiful, it's natural. There's ambiance, there's what is the word? Vibrancy going on. It's a beautiful morning, but yet here you are just captivated by this sense of fear that something's going wrong because of what you scrolled through first thing in the morning. Okay? That's exactly what I'm trying to get you guys to understand, is that it's not benefiting you in any way. All it is you're trying to catch up on something from yesterday, and you're causing an inception of anxiety and discouragement and irritability first thing in the morning when you shouldn't be. You should allow yourself time so that way you can gradually go into the prefrontal cortex state, so that way you're better able to manage through anything that comes your way. If you scroll through something, if you react, if something bad happens to you, if your manager says something, you're better able to respond to it because of how you handled it first thing in the morning, as opposed to somebody who scrolled first thing in the morning. Okay? Now, the next part of this whole scrolling through your phone first thing in the morning is that you give yourself an upcharge of dopamine. Okay? Dopamine, I'm not going to explain it too much. Dopamine is pretty much the chemical in your brain that is suited for anticipation and pursuit, right? When, for example, sex, right? Sex is not the most gratifying after. Sex is the most gratifying before and during. Okay, so think of dopamine in that sense. You get more dopamine before sex because you're anticipating sex, and then you get more dopamine during sex because you're partaking in the activity in what you once sought and yearned for. Okay, that's what produces dopamine. It's a anticipation, it's a pursuit, and then receiving the reward as a result. So now, well, we had a spike in dopamine, or we had a spike in cortisol, but that now we're seeing all these bunches of colors. We're seeing all this very nicely edited material on Instagram. We're seeing people talk to us. We're seeing movies or whatever it may be, YouTube videos among the lines of that. This is a problem because now you're creating a new baseline, an upcharged baseline of dopamine. So, for example, a speaker first thing in the morning, or for lack of a better term, a speaker is dialed up. Bye, I love you. Con cuidado. A speaker is dialed up all the way to the top, right? It's dialed all the way up to the highest point of volume. Now, for the rest of your day, whatever is beneath that volume point, you're not going to want to pay attention to it because, well, everything else is loud, but you're also putting more of your emphasis and attention onto that. So pretty much what I'm trying to say is you're more accustomed and acclimated to focus on things that are more dopaminergic, like Instagram, YouTube videos, movies, etc., etc., compared to something that's much more calm and easy and restive, or maybe something that you want to partake in or want to get better at, which is reading or writing or going to the gym or going for a walk first thing in the morning. You're not going to want to do those things because your brain is now so upcharged and so dopaminergic that it just wants to partake in activities that are among the lines of that. Our brain loves dopamine, okay? So it's going to want to just do those high dopaminergic things. So if your goal is to read more, go to the gym, or write, you won't be interested in doing those activities later on in the day because your brain is thinking about what's next. And that's the most important thing. Like I mentioned, it's about anticipation and pursuit. So when you're scrolling through Instagram first thing in the morning and you're scrolling trying to find something that you want, you're anticipating something, so you are receiving dopamine, but then you're still desiring and trying to pursue something that's worth your time and effort, so that way you can receive another term of dopamine, so that way you just keep scrolling. But if you don't receive that, your brain is going to be fragmented onto the idea, okay, I gotta find it, I gotta find it, I gotta find it. So you're more likely to scroll, you're more likely to make decisions that aren't aligned with your behaviors, like you'll want to eat more processed foods, you'll want to stay in bed a little bit longer. It's all your brain. And this is why people have such short attention spans, because of the morning scroll. Your brain begins to crave the reward of what's next and will therefore dictate all of your actions as a result. Not only that, but you receive the cortisol spike, seeing someone make more money. And what do you think is in charge for the rest of your day? The amygdala. The amygdala is scanning threats, searching for comfort, and emotionally reactive to whatever happens to you within the first hour of the day. Your coffee falls. A person says something negative. It's hot. It's cold. You won't be able to manage as if you would if you were in the prefrontal cortex state. So, this one act will have changed the trajectory of your day. And I'm a growing believer that your first hour of the day sets the expectations, tempo, and pace for how the rest of your day goes. If you have a mindful morning, you can expect a mindful day, and whatever challenges come across your way, because you were mindful, you'll be able to handle it without making it worse on your mental state. However, if it's a chaotic morning, you saw the 18-year-old, Donald Trump, ice this, ice that, LA's on fire, work email from your boss, you become much more scattered, flustered, and purely unencumbered with anxiety. My question to you is, would you prepare for a job interview or a first date the way you prepare for your mornings? Probably not, right? Because it's first impression. You want the supervisor to like you. You want the girl to like you. So why aren't you doing it for your day ahead? Your first stimulus is and will be your brain state. So please choose carefully. Okay. Now, pretty much going into, that's the whole deal of it, right? Pretty dense. I love it. I love talking about this stuff. It's so cool. So now I'm going to give you the 7-step protocol that I've been partaking in that's helped me become much more dialed, much more attention. My productivity has skyrocketed. My mental health, my mood is in a better position. I'm better able to react to certain things that are coming across my way. I can see the distorted thoughts that I have and see them as just a story that I'm playing a part myself, and that I can distance myself away from them. I've improved, and I want to share this protocol with you because I'm sure that it's going to help you, benefit you, help you become a much more productive, much more in the present moment type of person, and that's just my only goal. So, step one. Step one starts the night before, and that is, do I have it with me? All right. Heck yeah, I don't have it with me. I am very thirsty. Give me 1 second. Step one starts the night before, and it's putting your phone in a completely different room. That way, you don't feel tempted to reach for it first thing in the morning. Now, if you literally can't put it in a different room, and you have walking distance inside of your room, put your phone across the other side of the room and have a glass of water next to it, okay? So you have your alarm on your phone, and once your alarm goes off, you have to get up so that way you can turn it off. And by that time, you don't go back to bed, you stay in bed, right? Or you go and do your day. So, step two, if you only have, if that's pretty much, that was step two, right? I got ahead of myself again. Step two is pretty much, if you have If you don't have one of the physical alarms or just like one of the manual alarms, only $10 on Amazon, go and get one. If you don't have one of those though, put your phone across the room, set your alarm, first thing in the morning, get up so you can turn it off. Do not look at the phone. Okay? Have a glass of water next to it so you can drink water. Step 3, no phone usage for the first hour of your day. Now, might be a little hard for some people. Try 25 minutes, try 30 minutes, try an hour, or try 45 minutes, try 15 minutes. Just do not use your phone as soon as you wake up, okay? Give yourself 30 minutes. That is not that hard to do. I tend to do anywhere between an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours, sometimes 4 hours. And I love it. I love every single part of it. So no phone usage for the first hour of your day. Step 4, as soon as you wake up, you turn off your alarm, you have to get up. Instead of going to brush your teeth and whatnot and turning on artificial light, step outside. Go outside. Even if it's not daylight outside it and you wake up at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., go outside. Okay? And if it's 7 in the morning, 8 in the morning, even better because you step outside and you get natural sunlight. Okay? This is something that's been super important and something I've been learning a lot about too, is you receive the natural form of serotonin and dopamine as opposed to, receiving it from scrolling first thing in the morning. You get these natural sort of feelings in these states. Another thing that I've been noticing too is that as soon as I step outside, my grogginess, my cortisol, my eyes already enlighten themselves up and they get up themselves. And it's a literal, I don't even know how to process it. I don't even know how to describe it, but you wake up as soon as you step outside first thing in the morning for just 3 to 5 minutes. Okay? Step outside immediately as soon as you wake up. The reason why. So first, you're giving yourself natural, formidable feelings and chemicals such as serotonin and dopamine. These are natural. These are boosted. So that way you pretty much open the gauge for more possibility for them to be able to come in or for them to be able to flow across your day. At the same time, you are aligning your circadian rhythm. This is something that I try to tell people a lot, but I realized I didn't know enough about it. But I've done my research and I think I have it down. So your circadian rhythm is your brain's natural clock. And when you step outside, you're creating and giving your brain an indicator that George is awake. Therefore, within 14 to 16 hours from now, George is going to want to go to bed. So at this time, we're going to start creating the melatonin in his brain so that way he's naturally, easily able to flow to sleep within the time frame in which he normally goes to bed. Because it's a natural and healthy cycle for 14 to 16 hours from now for you to be able to go back to bed. So as soon as you wake up, it's indicating to your brain, okay, we're up, but then 14 to 16 hours from now, we want George to go back to bed so that way we can wake him up at this time. So it's pretty much aligning your circadian clock. So that way, the next day, you'll be able to wake up at that specific time that you want to wake up without needing an alarm. Cortisol is going to start spiking at that specific time. It's super cool. It's just incredible what our body's capable of, This way you'll sleep better, you'll wake up easier, and you'll be able to rest and go into your sleep so easily without any disturbances. So do this every day. Just go outside. Step 5, drink water. I talked a little bit about it in step 2, which was have, your phone and then a glass of water right next to it. Considering you're full of cortisol at the moment, it's best practice to have some form of water because you're dehydrated. And if you continue to be dehydrated, this is just a negative state for your mind, negative state for your brain, because your brain is 75% water. So you need to hydrate it first thing in the morning so that way you don't feel lethargic, that way you don't feel brain fog or, incapable of doing the natural sharp things that you're accustomed to doing. So drink water to catch up because you just slept for 7 to 9 hours. You're dehydrated. You need to catch up. Step 6, take a walk. This is probably one of my favorite ones because I do this every morning and it's just so beautiful. I look at the clouds, I look at the blue sky, I look at the birds, I watch the flowers, I'm walking, I'm staying hydrated. Now, in our brains we have something called epinephrine, and in our body we have something called adrenaline. When you partake into an activity that is among the lines of physical activity, considering that you're full of cortisol at the moment, you are kind of, from what I understand, is you're, how do I say it? You're extracting some form of cortisol outside of your body, and you are instead replacing it with endorphins. You're giving yourself better boosted feelings of serotonin and dopamine because you just partook in activity that caused you to use yourself. Okay. So this is naturally important because you're full of cortisol. This serves as a way to lower those levels by implementing other chemicals like endorphins. Oh, excuse me. You don't extract them. You create a much more, because cortisol is high, right? So what we want to do is we want to lower that cortisol so that way we're at an even baseline to have what's actually sufficient and healthy for us to have throughout our day. So we partake into an activity like running, jogging, boxing, lifting. We partake in these activities and we get other subcharged, responses like epinephrine, dopamine, or endorphins that causes us to balance out those cortisol levels. And it also encourages serotonin and other healthy healthy feelings. Step 7, this one's optional, but this one is my favorite, is read or journal. So nothing crazy, but by the time you're done, you'll feel your ability to respond is heightened, but also how you handle situations changes. So you're much more aware and open as opposed to the state of the amygdala. When you're in this prefrontal cortex state, your mind is in a much suited position and you're much more of the person that you want to step into or much more of the person that you want to be. And when you start writing down your thoughts, your emotions, it's almost like a reinforcement of belief and action and ideation of who you are as a person. And the more you partake in this activity, the more that you find out more about yourself, the more you're able to sharpen the way you use your words because you're the one that's writing it yourself. You're the one that's thinking it. You're the one that's writing it. You're the one that's physically putting it down onto a piece of paper. The more sharper as a person you become, and you're less focused on bullshit, because a lot of what's out there, social media, a lot of what's out there, some people are trying to help, but a lot of it is bullshit. They are creating these things that are meant to hijack your attention. And if you're so accustomed and so focused onto things that are not adding fruit to your life, then you're wasting a lot of your best focus, your best cognition, your best attention onto shit that doesn't even matter, because what is it doing for your life aside from providing you entertainment? And you don't need to be entertained first thing in the morning. You don't need to be entertained when you're taking a shit. You don't need to be entertained when you're waiting for the street light to turn green. I think we've lost a lot of humanity in that sense, and it's unfortunate. But if we refuse to let the amygdala take charge of our lives, take charge of our brain and our state first thing in the morning, you're setting yourself to be the type of person that is capable of being the person that you want to be and responding in the way that you want to respond, as opposed to being more emotional. You're more grounded. You're more sensical and logical and rational based on your decisions. You're also able to distance yourself from the emotional reactivity that you have in your brain, and you're able to be different outward, which is so valuable and so important. And read, we have so many great philosophers, so many great writers, so many great thinkers, so many great inventists, presidents, whatever, and you have them at the palm of your hand if you just give enough attention and effort and intention to read it. But if you're focused on the reactive state and you have all this dopamine coursing through your veins, you're not going to want to do it. But if you're in the prefrontal cortex state, guess what? You can and you will and you want to. Try and make the prefrontal cortex state a part of you as much as possible, because it changes the trajectory of every single aspect of your day. And that's what I want you to have, a great day. So I'll see you guys in the next one. This has been the Eccentric Mind Podcast with George Hernandez, and I'll see you tomorrow.